In John 21, 7 disciples had gone out on a boat to go fishing. The Bible tells us that after that expedition, they fished all night, and as we would sing as children, and they caught no fishes. They had been very unsuccessful. And then on the bank of the water, there's a stranger. It's actually Jesus, but they don't know that at this point. And he asked them, children, have you caught any food? Do you have any food? Have you caught any fish? And they say no. Well, then Jesus tells them something that he's told them before at the very beginning of the ministry. He says, cast your net on the right side. When they do, they catch so many fish that the net cannot contain them all. It seems it's almost like it's about to break, but it doesn't break. They eventually will bring that to shore, and it has 153 fish in it. What's the significance of that? Well, someone counted the fish. That number, to my knowledge, means nothing more than it was a whole lot of fish. It was an extraordinarily, unusually high number of fish caught that day by the disciples in that net. And yet Jesus now, when he does this and they're catching all the fish, John leans over to Peter and he says, it's the Lord. Peter, impetuous as he is, hops out of the boat, swims to the shore. The other disciples come, they get the fish out. Jesus is cooking breakfast for them. He already has some fish. He says, bring some more, and he feeds all of them. Where were their minds at this time? The Bible tells us in John 21 that no one said or asked him, who are you? Because they knew it was the Lord. This is still fairly, new stuff for them to comprehend and to wrap their mind around, that he's risen from the dead. And they're sort of, not waffling, but they're just sort of in this land of, we're not sure exactly what's going on and what the next step is. Well, perhaps this little event that reenacts somewhat what happened at the beginning of Jesus' ministry helped them some, because Jesus had told them at the beginning of his ministry to leave the fishing boats and become fishers of men. In Luke 5, we find an incident very similar to this one, where they caught more fish by casting their nets after being very unsuccessful, but they did it because Jesus told them to. And then they caught a whole bunch of fish, and they were convinced that this man was more than just a good advice giver about where to catch good fish. And they began to follow him. This event probably is intended by the Lord to kind of recreate that memory in their mind and to help them and remind them that they were called not to be fishers of fish, but fishers of men. And eventually Jesus will address that. And before this chapter's over, he'll talk to Peter about sheep and being a shepherd and so on. And the lesson for each and every one of us, we are also called like Jesus and by Jesus to be fishers of men. And let us never forget how significant and how important our responsibility is.